Welcome to Shareholder Q&A, a production of Gore column in which investors submit their questions online, and then we talk directly with the CEOs in order to answer them, to get your answers directly from the horse's mouth. This Shareholder Q&A, you see him on the screen. He's back again. Steve McCauley, CEO, Empower Clinics, trades in Canada under CBDT. For our friends in the US, EPWCF, and of course for our always great shareholders in Europe on Frankfurt under 8EC. For those new to the story, by the way, sometimes we pass over this because we know that we've got over 20,000 shareholders by now, but we should always mention for the new people that Empower is an integrated healthcare company with multiple divisions, including clinics, with a stated goal of 30 clinics in Canada by the end of 2021. A pipeline of 15 clinics has already been announced. The first launch is going to be in September, then rolling out after that with ribbon cutting ceremonies. Going to be really exciting into the end of 2021 into 2022. Great partnerships there with a number of pharmacy companies. And from what we've heard from Steve, merger and acquisition talk is also ongoing, and that may add to the pipeline as well. They've also got a leading medical diagnostics lab that's processing thousands of COVID-19 specimens and developing novel COVID-19 testing protocols. More than just lip service, they've got pilots going on right now with Save On Foods, Pharma Choice, and announced just yesterday, Pharma Save. They also got their telemedicine platform, M&A growth, as we've seen through the Canadian diabetes leader Medisure. Everything's going fantastic. Here to answer some of the shareholder questions. Steve, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, George. Always a pleasure to see you, and looking forward to kind of talking about things in general and talking about some updates and kind of what the balance of the balance of this year is just going to be, I think, frenetic for us as all of these new openings start to land. So it's going to be a pretty exciting time once we get past Labor Day.
It sure feels that way, right? Feels like we're right at the start line now. We're waiting for the gun to go off, and then Empower just goes on this great biz dev run for a long time. I mean, it's not going to calm down for a long, long time.
Yeah, this is many years of this cycle. There's no doubt, right? This is just a constant state of growth and hyper growth. And as you mentioned, it's our organic openings, but equally our deal flow and deal pipeline continues to be very strong. And certainly I anticipate getting a number of good, exciting announcements out this fall on new acquisition opportunities.
So we announced the Q&A last week. We posted, shareholders have been posting their questions. I want to touch quickly though on two press releases that have come out this week.
Yes.
The first one, Empower and PharmaSave enter pilot program to supply CHI testing to independent pharmacies. Okay, that is another great pilot. What caught my attention is this though, from your quote, an excerpt. With corporate pharmacy partners, Pharma Choice, and now PharmaSave, we are seeing steady growth and momentum with a number of pharmacy groups from across North America. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because that sounds like we're really starting to get the attention of a lot of pharmacy groups across North America. That's what shareholders want to see.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a stated objective of ours, of mine, for this entire year, which really kicked off with the acquisition of the clinics in Canada, Lawrence Park and Atkinson, and we started to announce. It started with Rexall and moving towards building clinics out, in conjunction with their locations, kind of in a Rexall, on a Rexall, beside a Rexall. And that kind of pathway of aligning ourselves with pharmacy groups, whether corporately owned and managed or independent, national brands or regional brands, is really paying dividends as a strategy. And we know what our lane is, the pharmacies know what their lane is, and we're so complementary to each other. And so all along, we've been building much more reputation within the pharmacy, ecosystem in Canada and in the US as well with our tabula rasa, connections. But the announcement of yesterday with PharmaSave, it's a wonderful national group with 800 independent pharmacies across the country. It's another household name. And we're demonstrating that we have credibility at the most senior level with these large corporate brands. And then it's up to us and our team members to execute regionally in the neighborhoods where the pharmacists are located. That's on us. But so it's really kind of a nice kind of push and pull strategy. But again, we're just demonstrating that a smaller developing small cap company like ours can be taken seriously enough that big national established brands want to partner with us. And we're leveraging what we can do on the clinic side. We're leveraging with what we can do on direct-to-consumer medical and healthcare testing through our Kai Care brand. And now we've got the Medisure brand that's come online for us. And the moment that acquisition closed, I was on the phone with.
You're on the move.
I was on the phone with all of our key relationships, and I already kind of whispered in the ears of some of the key buyers that we work with that, looks like this deal is probably going to get done. And when it's done, I'm coming back. And that's exactly what we've done. So I think they're viewing us as a diversified partner that really has a lot to offer the pharmacy ecosystem.
Is it fair to say, because you mentioned momentum, we know you're in an industry that is massive, but has, doesn't have a massive number of flags under it. So you've announced something with Rexall, you've announced something with Pharma Choice, you've announced something with PharmaSave, and others.
Yeah.
Are you getting more? Does that just get you more and more attention from other pharmaceutical companies or pharmacy retailers across North America saying, hey, we got to talk to these Empower guys. They're signing everybody.
It absolutely does. It's credibility, and it's hard to get into these large organizations. In some cases, it can take years of, business development activity to actually get a pilot and strike a deal and actually do something. And we know that, and we've known that from the very beginning, that all of these are building blocks. But if we execute, and I think it's something that we're known for, is just getting things done, then there's no reason why we can't work with these big groups for years to come. When we open our healthcare centers, I view them as an annuity with those partnerships or subleases or however we set them up. And we should have that relationship and those revenue streams for years to come. I see us, kind of converting from almost this rapid growth organization to a value play or a value stock in the future. That maybe we start to get to a position where we've got such regular and recurring free cash flow that we become a dividend play. We don't know that at this stage. But if you think,
but you don't play small ball and you're looking forward.
No, you've got to.
You're already shaping what you think Empower is going to look like 5 years down the road. You don't live quarter to quarter.
No, we absolutely do not. We have to put together these building blocks for a tremendously stable and valuable, healthcare business, for the future, serving millions of patients in the markets that we operate in. But we just believe that this alignment with pharmacy networks, is really quite unique. And I think our reputation for understanding how to work with pharmacies is starting to become pretty well known now. Like it's not.
That's why it feels like that finish. That's why it feels like that start line right now. It feels like all of this is culminating into relationships and product and partnerships for a long, long time. It just feels that way right now.
And it gives us then that credibility because if one national brand is comfortable aligning themselves with us, it tells the other national brands that something's going on here, because they know that due diligence would have happened, right? They would have the opportunity to go out and follow us and research us and realize, these guys are onto something here. And they've got the capital runway, they've got the know-how, they've got the expertise. They're kind of starting to speak our language. And, we definitely are getting better at, speaking the language of pharmacy. and demonstrating that we understand what makes a pharmacy tick, and we can appeal to what their needs are, and serve them as clients. And also, it's kind of, particularly on the clinic side, is very reciprocal, because we bring tremendous value to the pharmacies and the pharmacy groups and the pharmacists, because we can help retain patients and keep them close. That drives increased prescriptions, increased time in store, and those are things that we contribute to the ecosystem of pharmacy. So when we come back and say, oh, hey, we want to talk to you about our products, our medical products, we've got a great audience already.
You got their attention.
Yeah, we do. So,
nice.
And then we're taking steps now to, help us get better at it. We still, this is still a learning curve. We have to be humble enough to realize that we still have a lot to learn on how to, work with the ecosystem and how to support them every day, every week, every month, every quarter over time. So one of the things that we're doing with the organization, I was on with the Medisure team today, really talking about account management. Like, what is their account management philosophy? We've got about 14 independent sales reps and some inside sales at Medisure. So, what is that account management strategy to best serve the needs of the pharmacies and the pharmacists in the neighborhoods? So we're really thinking about that, and are we serving that pharmacy community in the best possible way? I think we're doing some things that really well, but I want to put more investment into that. And if that means putting more feet on the streets, then we'll do that appropriately within our budgets. But we're just getting better all the time, George. We really are.
And that's your Six Sigma background, right?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, we have to analyze this stuff and not take anything for granted, and be prepared to evolve, to change, to pivot. Be experts at change management, and accept that maybe the status quo is not good enough, and we have to be better. So that's what we're doing, a lot of that behind the scenes.
Yeah, we can feel it. That's for sure. The next press release is typically when a company announces an advisory board, it's launching an advisory board and add a couple of people. It's generally not newsworthy, but or worth talking about. But your first addition to the advisory board only brings further credibility to everything you just said. And third-party validation, third-party credibility is everything in the small cap world. Talk to us about who we're talking about.
So yeah, it's very timely, right? So we've always intended in having a strategic advisory board. I've built strategic advisory boards, customer advisory boards in the past, particularly in my GE days, and it's very different than a board of directors, but they can really help us, and it brings experts to us. So we've just announced here Thursday morning pre-market the addition of Annette Robinson to the formation of the Strategic Advisory Board, and then our first participant, Annette Robinson. Now, Annette is the current president of the British Columbia Pharmacy Association. She's a 30-year plus pharmacist. She sits on the Canadian National Pharmacy Council as well. She's a very big lobbyist, very directly tied into the BC Ministry of Health, and also at a federal level. She's worked at Rexall corporate. She's worked at PharmaSafe corporate, and she's a pharmacist, and she just absolutely speaks the language of pharmacy.
Addition. What a fantastic addition.
She's a wonderful addition. She's very skilled, highly intelligent professional. She's also an absolutely great person to be around. And in the spirit of us trying to get better, I want to surround us with experts. I want us to be better at speaking the language. I want to be better at opening the doors. I want to be better at working with pharmacists in the neighborhoods and the customers that they serve. The other real special feature about Annette is she's also incredibly passionate about the topic of diabetes. She's a certified diabetes educator in Canada, And so we get this kind of double whammy with her. Is she's got tremendous expertise, obviously pharmacy in general, but she also is going to help us a lot on the Medisure side, and our track forward, our path forward of development and product development for Medisure, because product development for the Medisure brand is an imperative for us going forward. Expansion into the US and the FDA approvals, will be an imperative for the Medisure brand going forward. So I am really excited to have Annette, aligned with us, and I think we're going to do some great work together.
And just like we talked about momentum on the pharmacy side, when someone like Annette, joins the advisory board, I presume that brings, it goes out saying that credibility and validation, not just for shareholders, but for other big members of the Canadian, North American pharmaceutical industry who say, hey, maybe I should be on that advisory board as well, because it looks like those guys are going somewhere. Well,
every major brand in Canada will know Annette.
Wow.
That is, this is just the type of credibility and reputation that she has. And like I said, we're fortunate to be able to attract, this type of expertise and talent to help make us better. And I want us to be better. I want us to improve. I want us to always be in a state of attempting to get better and trying to get better, no matter what, a constant state of development. And so this is just another, I think, really important step. And as you said, sometimes, you don't make a big deal about a strategic advisory board, but I think it is a big deal, frankly, especially when we get top talent to come our way. And I think it will demonstrate to the pharmacy community how important our alignment with pharmacies, how important that really is to us and to our business model.
Oh, you're building a powerhouse. I can see it. I've been through this for 25 years. You guys are building something special, Steve.
Yeah.
On that note, let's get to the shareholders who asked us some great questions. First question, they weren't the first to ask, but you'll see why Wolf of Oakville goes first, because his question starts with, to my favorite CEO and the best small cap interviewer on the planet. So thanks, Wolf. That's awesome. Can you, Steve, walk us through the site selection process? How are locations identified and prioritized? Which partners are included in final sign-off on location, lease, and why, in what circumstances would master leases be required? He's looking forward to the ribbon cuttings. He's going to be there.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So it's relatively complex for us because we have kind of a variety of situations. The site selection, so let's take corporate Rexall. Site selection is very much done in conjunction with their real estate people. So they have a team of real estate, they have a real estate department, a key guy that we work with covers off the East. They have a West person, they have their senior manager. They are looking at their own real estate, and they are looking to identify which real estate footprint, which market would be most appropriate from their perspective. And then we come together with them and say, okay, is there enough footprint there? Does that postcode make sense? And what is our likelihood to recruit quality medical doctors and paramedical practitioners for that postcode?
That's a big one, right? But a lot of people don't realize how important of a factor that plays, because you got to have a postal code that's attractive enough to medical practitioners to want to relocate there.
Yeah, and you have Ministry of Health structures within the province of Ontario that also dictate how medical billing works depending on the type of clinic that it is. And one's referred to as a FO, one's referred to as a FIG. We prefer to go FO because it's got predictability of billing in our business model, and it really helps us out of the gate. We can layer on other FIG versions of that at later dates, but again, out of the gate, having nice predictability of your monthly billings really just makes sense at this time. So, and in the corporate relationship ones of what I just mentioned, in some cases, we have we'll call it a master sublease. So we have negotiated a standardized sublease with Rexall because they're the head tenant on the location. And then we take a sublet structure for the square footage that we allocate to it. And so we've negotiated and we've signed a number of the templated subleases with Rexall. In other cases, and I'll go back to Rexall. So one of our early openings in Etobicoke, we're calling it Etobicoke Browns line. Actually, this is a facility that sits on top of the Rexall. So wonderful clinic. It's going to be large. We will do a big ribbon cutting ceremony on that in the not too distant future, actually. And in that particular case, we did a head lease with the landlord of the property. So Rexall would have a head lease for their space down below. Right. We did a head lease with the same landlord, but for our space. So that's a different sort of lease structure, but that's still a program that was put together in conjunction with the real estate folks at Rexall.
Of course.
Now, conversely, our openings in Hamilton, which is one of the actually I think it might be the first one here in a short couple of weeks, is a smaller location at an independent pharmacy. It's either an IDA or a PharmaSave. I can't remember which one's going first. And in that particular case, we struck a short, really clean lease agreement, sublease agreement with them. And it's quite easy to do, very efficient. We have a flagship location in Etobicoke being built out right now, and that one's called Lakeshore on Lakeshore Drive. This is a brand new build from scratch in a brand new strip mall, tremendous location surrounded by young families in condos and townhouse complexes, great demographics. And that was a brand new, head lease with the landlord. And then we're actually bringing in a subtenant as well to help subsidize our costs. And the build out on that one is already underway. So we have different structures on leases, and the choice of locations is really dependent upon our ability to recruit doctors in given locations, working with a particular partner on trying to assess their needs in the communities that they have, and then just trying to figure it out. Another example is London, Ontario. We've got a big standalone facility there that's under construction. We have already over allocated our medical doctors for that location. And in fact, I was on with Doctors Jordan and Aviv today talking about London, Ontario, and we now are on the hunt for another location because we have too many physicians that want to work with us.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
And the London location that we're building out, it's a big facility, but it is 100% full and allocated already for medical doctors and practitioners. But we have more quality groups coming to us who want to move across to the MediCollective brand because they really believe in what we're doing. They see the investment. They love the brand story, but they want to remain in the community that they serve, but they want to bring their roster of patients across with them, right? And so, there's a formula to what we're doing. But some of it is you kind of just have to negotiate on the fly, make decisions on the fly, on the ground about where we have physicians, and some of it's timing. So as an example, if for whatever reason, a Rexall or whomever it might be, a Pharma Choice, isn't ready to make a decision in a particular market, for whatever reason, but we've got a roster of medical doctors that want to come on board, then we will make the call to, go to another location or build out a location on our own because we can't lose the opportunity to recruit those high quality medical doctors. right?
What's great about all this is that you're not limited by any structure. You're
We
flexible
have
on
flexibility.
different structures, which is great because, and people might take that for granted, but there are a lot of operations out there that say, here is our model, here is how we do it, and we only do it this way. And they miss opportunities, but someone at corporate has decided, no, we're only going to do it this way, and that's it. And whereas with Meta Collective, you're not missing any opportunities. Empower's not missing any opportunities. It's just making it work.
Well, we're prepared to be flexible where appropriate. We've got to be very respectful for the medical doctor community, because we're also building our reputation with our good MDs. We're building a reputation with practitioners in paramedical services. And so if we string them along and then all of a sudden, miss and don't, get a facility in the particular city that we're talking about, then that's kind of shame on us. And that's not good for our reputation in the medical community. So we're very concerned about building building reputation, building relationships, and really recognizing the importance of that for the long-term success of our overall public company. And I think the fact that we're paying attention and we care enough to be that considerate, but we're also nimble enough to adjust and make change, and we have the capital runway to do it.
Next question. New name that I'm seeing here, new handle. Ciaran McD, but let's call it Chiara is the easy one. Hi, Steve. How many clinics do you think will be operational by December 31st? Is there a target? And what are the plans for uplisting to the NASDAQ, or is the TSX a possibility?
Okay, so first part of the question. So we'll have a better handle, I think, as we get through late September on exactly how many will be open and operational. We've got a pretty healthy pipeline right now of leases signed, permits being pulled, architects engaged, and running through that cycle to get to full openings by December. So we'll be able to kind of peg that number pretty accurately, I think, in the next, say, 2 to 4 weeks. And then the more important one for me right now is the concept of committed clinics. Now, they may not be fully operational by the end of 2021, but at least we know the city, the location, and we've got the commitment for that. That right now is big for me, to know exactly what that's going to look like for 2021. The other part that kind of gets laid on top of that is the acquisition pipeline that we have. And so there's going to be quite a bit more, I'll call it information coming in the next short while on kind of our deal flow. We've been working very hard through the summer, nurturing some of these opportunities. We've got term sheet discussions underway with a number of different groups right now. And we want to have additional acquisitions that we can try to get closed in 2021 to really set us up for a strong, much larger annualized revenue run rate for 2022. So I think we just give me a little bit more time on that front. Second part of the question was about uplisting. So we have a stated objective to be uplisted. That isn't going away. Nothing has changed. It's always market dependent. Our concept of TSX versus NASDAQ is, we really like the idea of NASDAQ as the uplist target because we have North America wide assets, and we think that makes a lot of sense. But if for whatever reason we get good guidance from legal and from investment banking that TSX we should do first before we do NASDAQ, we'll talk about it. But there's nothing, fundamentally prohibiting us from, making that run to go from where we are at the CSE through to NASDAQ. Like technically, we don't have a roadblock. It's really about scale, and it's about the right time and having the market support to do it.
Is there maybe a not necessarily a number, but a position you want the company to be in? Do you want to have 20 clinics fully operational, or 30 or 50? Is there a number where you're saying, hey, I want to get to this stage because back to your GE training, I want to be at this depth before I go for an uplist, or is it a time frame? What's
Yeah,
what are a couple
I think
parameters?
for me, I think for me, like you can come at it in a couple of different. There's a couple of different ways to analyze that decision, and this topic is, and it gets you to the same place anyhow, right? So, is there a market cap kind of threshold that you're looking for, that everybody around, that you're going to need from, particularly on the investment banking side and organizational structure, says, yeah, you're ready, because you've got that scale and valuation. Now, the other way to come about another way is you can say, well, okay, I need X number of clinics, X number of acquisitions, because that creates my, trailing 12-month multiple and my forward-looking multiple. And so that backs me into that threshold anyhow, right? So we're working through kind of that critical thinking. And again, as we get through, really the next 2 to 4 weeks, we're going to go through quite a lot of analysis with, some great experts on that topic, that really help with that road mapping. We've brought on an FP&A person, so financial planning and analysis for those who may not know. So I've used FP&A talent very effectively in prior years, particularly at GE and at Penske, and it's about critical thinking. It's about building budget cycles. It's about doing market analysis on product development. So with the advancements that care and the extensive R&D that's going on right now, we want to support them with critical thinking, not just a back of a napkin analysis, but like, what product set are we bringing to market first? When? What's the investment? What's the return on investment? When we look at Medisure and the product development cycle, same thing. What product, what format, what timeline, what investment, so that we understand what that expected outcome is, and we can comfortably know how to allocate our investment dollars. So that's just some other organizational improvements that we're making, and it's all on the premise of getting better, George. Right? As we develop, our organization isn't there yet. We need more talent in certain places to help us along the way. But we're recognizing where we've got gaps, and we're focusing our efforts on it to plug those areas, to make our entire organization better.
I think it's exciting. I mean, there's a lot there, but I think it's exciting that you said that next 2 to 4 weeks, you're going to have greater visibility on a lot of things, which just keeps reinforcing this start gun. We're at the start line right now. And last question from Char was that, when will the Sun Valley business be settled, and will that be a help on the investment side, not being associated with marijuana products?
The short answer to the second part of the question is yes. I mean, that's an easy one, frankly. The product category is still considered federally an illegal category in the United States, and that is problematic, particularly when it comes to institutions. And certain institutions have mandates that they can't even invest in that sector. We can't have that happen to us as a pure play healthcare company. Healthcare is open to all major corporate investors and hedge funds and pension funds and whatnot. So it just we've talked about it before. This is where we are, we know that that's where we're going. So we're taking steps. We are in the middle of negotiating it through, and with the Medisure transaction now closed, it gives me a little bit more opportunity to focus on the definitive agreement related to the Sun Valley, sale. So again, probably as we get, into September, we still have people on holidays and things like that. Then, we're going to see more activity and more updates related to Sun Valley Health.
Okay. Next question is from Eric Brown. Much easier name, by the way. Love those names. I love the simplicity of this question, but it's also really powerful. Is there anything that Steve can think of that could derail Empower Clinic's execution of its business plan?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's simple, but kind of a poignant thing. I
A
mean,
great due diligence question. It's always good for
yeah,
shareholders to know
yeah.
that.
Look, all of us in small cap sector, there are risks associated with it. We look what happened to society and business across many sectors with the COVID-19 pandemic. No one predicted that would show. Yes, anybody 2 years ago, would we have all lived through, this cycle in our lives? And nobody would have said that would have happened. So there are certainly forces that could be outside of our control that could cause challenges. So there are risk factors associated with every growth organization. I feel like the divestiture of the medical cannabis certification clinics was and has been a risk on us. And we saw steep declines in revenue because of legislative changes in the state of Arizona that were beyond our control. I think we did a pretty decent job in starting to pivot and move, recognizing that it was coming. So that's a factor that we adjusted to. I think that going forward with really pure play healthcare, we have much more long-term stability. So I think that de-risks our long-term business model. I feel like if we get off on tangents, like we don't recognize what our lanes are in our business model, I think that becomes problematic. So I'm very cautious to ensure that how we deploy our capital have enough discipline to stay within kind of the framework that we have right now. And I get presented with such a variety of acquisition opportunities. And frankly, some of them are so much out on a tangent that it would be inappropriate for me even to advocate internally and to our board that we should support something like that. So I think that, but I think again, we're quite disciplined. We always would like the business model to go faster. I think the other thing, risk factors are always capital markets. And if, something happens with general economies, something happens with the general markets overall, that can create pressure on the entire, capital markets ecosystem, not just us. So
but it sounds like you're not too worried outside of the outlier events that could affect Agoracom and GE, right? Even GE almost went under 2008 because but the good thing is it doesn't sound like there were things specific to Empower that you fear there's nothing in Empower that keeps you up at night and says, man, if that partnership doesn't work out, that could really derail us, or if that thing does. It's because we've got a strong foundation. You've got the clinics, you've got Kai Lab, you got the products. It just seems like there's a great foundation there. So outside of outliers, it's safe to say this, Steve, outside of the unknown unknowns that could hit any of us, you're not too worried by, I think, derailing Empower.
No, I think we've got a pretty good handle on our divisions. I think we've done a nice job in the valuations on acquisitions. I tell you, I'm very disciplined on how our approach to acquisitions works. I'm very formula oriented, as I've explained before, and we've walked away from numerous opportunities that on the surface could have been very accretive, but the outlandish valuations that were being requested, in my opinion, would be a very poor use of our capital and our currency. And I'm simply not going to, pull the trigger on an acquisition just for the sake of doing another acquisition. It's not going to work out long term, because then all of a sudden you turn around and you go, geez, where's my cash? Oh, hey, the market's changed. Our access to capital has changed, and you find yourself, your business model in trouble, right? That's, these are the things that would keep me up at night. There aren't any sort of kind of major things that come to mind. I think we're building a really nice solid foundation of divisions that generate revenue and working capital to our cause. We're investing in brand, and we're investing in making divisions better, like Kai Medical and now Medisure. But these are reasonable, controllable investments that, with a little bit of shared services support, those independent divisions just get much better, and they become bigger contributors.
And as an investor myself, there's an inference there that I like, which is you've got a multitude of, and don't need to make Hail Mary acquisitions. And that speaks a lot, because there are a lot of small cap companies out there. ABC Widgets, the foundation isn't going so great. They don't have the capital, the resources, the people. It's not all come together. So they say, let's go acquire XYZ. We know we're gonna have to pay an arm and a leg for it, but we got no choice because it doesn't look like things are going well here. So even just by telling investors that you don't have to make any Hail Mary acquisitions, let alone acquisitions that don't even really make sense, is a great inference for us to read.
Yeah, I mean, I just think as you build for a longer term, view of a business plan, is you still this is my personal belief, is that you've got to work within your means reasonably at the point in time where you are, and you're building a foundation and then building blocks on top of that. And we just don't want the house to come crumbling in at some point in the future. So, let's try to do it in a thoughtful, appropriate manner, and, accept where we are today, but know that we're building for something bigger and greater in the future. And we'll have bigger access to capital going forward. We'll do bigger transactions in the future, but don't overstep our reach at this stage, while we've got some really nice things coming together.
J. Simpson, 1974. What's the status of our partnership with McKesson? Could we see McKesson distributing our products like Kai Care and Medisure in the near future once they receive FDA approval? And could we see Tabula Rasa carrying and distributing our products like Kai Care and Medisure in the near future under the same conditions?
Okay, so a few things to break down there. So we already work with McKesson in Canada through Medisure. I don't think I've talked about that previously, but this is already kind of there. It's not something that we brought to the table. The good team at Medisure distribute with McKesson to pharmacies in Canada. So pharmacies can place an order through the McKesson platform. Medisure inventory gets distributed through McKesson distribution centers out to those pharmacies. So we already have that in place in Canada. For the US, we have to get our FDA structure in place with Medisure. That is a stated mission and an objective that we've got Mario and his team working on. So we'll keep updating everybody on the progress there. And then once we would have FDA approval and we've got product on the ground in the United States on the diabetes side, we would then start talking to McKesson for distribution, because like in Canada, McKesson is probably the largest distribution hub into pharmacies. It's the same thing in the United States. So we would absolutely be in dialogue with McKesson. Again, thankfully, we've got wonderful relationships building with Rexall. McKesson's the parent company of Rexall. Medisure already works with McKesson. So I think that's all lining up. With respect to Tabula Rasa, the short answer is yes. We were already in dialogue with their merchandising people. The first products that I would expect to be carried would be through Kai Care, our direct-to-consumer at-home saliva test kit. And then we see that relationship as a platform for the myriad of other Kai Care direct-to-consumer at-home tests that are being developed right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the last question we already dealt with is the cannabis side of things holding back with McKesson or government. So we dealt with that.
Yeah.
But that's great about Tabula Rasa. I mean, that's great
Oh
that we're
yeah.
already in discussions about that.
Oh yeah, no, we've been yeah. I mean, that's been on the agenda with them from the beginning. They say Yoshi, excuse me, Yoshi and her team already working with their heads of merchandising, who would be responsible for those categories, and they've got 15,000 pharmacies in their network.
Paul DeWolf. Hey, George and Steve. Hope you're both doing great. Hope you're both doing well. Great to see you guys again. So thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. Question one, are you still actively seeking to acquire or get a partnership with a lab in Canada?
Short answer on that one is a yes. We've explained previously, the lab market is very tight in Canada. You really have two kind of, monopoly players. And so what we're trying to determine is just aligning ourselves with existing labs on a referral relationship, good enough for us in the Canadian market, or is the ultimate, objective to, own or start, a lab infrastructure in Canada. So it's still an open question for us. I don't feel like we really fully have that vetted out. And it's just unfortunate the market is so restricted in the lab world or lab space in Canada. But we've got some interesting conversations going on. And so I think, more updates on that topic as we get deeper into September. But we have not lost sight of that as a possibility.
Man, it seems like there's a lot that could be happening in September. His second question, we just talked about McKesson, but his McKesson question is just a slight difference. Have we had conversation with McKesson regarding expanding clinics in the U.S. market? Have we ever had conversations?
No, not at this stage. So okay. we are respecting the good work that we're doing right now with Rexall. I think due to the nature of those organizations, they're very large organizations and very difficult to align yourself with, and you have to be prepared to prove yourself over time. And that's what we're doing. Now, in the meantime, we're signing other great national brands that
sure.
Some of which, might be a little bit more nimble because they've got independent pharmacies who kind of get to make their own decisions. But that concept of a, Rexall McKesson relationship in the future, as you can see, it's blossoming, right? And with more lease signings, the Medisure alignment to McKesson as a distributing partner, of course I knew that going in through due diligence, and believe me, in the back of my mind, I know that only benefits us long term, so that when I do want to walk in the front door of McKesson in Irvine, Texas, just down the road from our lab in Dallas, Texas, we've got a lot of credibility under our belts with their subsidiaries and divisions, and have very good reason to have executive level conversations. But you know what? We're not quite ready yet. We're just not there yet. But we're, it's in the back of my mind. I'm not losing sight of a big picture here, but we have to build towards that respectfully.
Yeah, and I can see that. And the build, you're right. You got to build towards the big daddy that way. And I think you're doing it exactly the right way, because at some point you want to say, hey, we're doing this with you on the product side. We're doing this with Rexall on the clinic side. Yeah. We've done really well. We've got a track record of execution. Yeah. Each of those groups can validate that. And then you say, can we have a conversation about this? Yeah. And that's when not that makes it automatic, but that makes it a lot easier.
It doesn't make it automatic, but I want us to have the ability to, have demonstrated that we are bringing great value and contributions to their organization. And again, this is something that, can be highly unusual for developing small cap companies. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job so far. And
yes, very, very much so.
I just feel we have to be very respectful of the way that they operate.
Side question from me: if and when we get to that point, great success, Irvine, Texas, will you commit right here on camera to buying Dallas Cowboys season tickets so that I can at least attend 3 or 4 of those games.
I will commit to buying you a Dallas Cowboys game ticket for sure.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take that.
And then I don't even know how much season tickets down there cost. So, yeah, if we get some things like that going, I'm sure we can figure out how to attend a game or two, perhaps, and do some site visits.
I'm going to timestamp this right here so that I can refer back to it a couple of years from now,
at a later date,
or less, to hold you to it. And the last question from Paul was: has Kai previously ever exceeded 2,000 tests in a single day, at least once? And are you confident that the run rate will remain at approximately $10 million?
I don't believe it has exceeded 2,000 in one day. I know we definitely exceeded 1,000, but we did not 2,000. I'm just trying to think of the spreadsheets right now. And the run rate has been very strong. I can't talk much about any numbers right now. We've got our 2Q numbers kind of dropping in a few days. They'll be out early. And so I need to be cautious, obviously,
Yeah, that would be selective disclosure. So to make sure everyone knows,
I
probably wouldn't even allow you to answer that question because you're not allowed to kind of give a number now.
I'm under blackout right now, and it's just it's too sensitive with securities commissions. So let's hold off on that at this stage.
All right. Kunster is asking, are the newly hired MDs experienced and come with their patients, or they newly graduated need to build their patient base? I know you touched this before, so that's pretty much maybe a short answer there, but I want to make sure.
It's actually a great question, because I think what we end up seeing is a bit of a mix. So I feel like we've got 22s coming to mind as MDs under contract already. I can tell you, because I just saw a memo about it yesterday, our first physicians that are coming online with our openings, because we've got our new electronic medical records system is live and up and running in preparation for all these openings. And one of the new doctors coming in, they just moved their roster across to our database. So to answer the question in practical sense, we absolutely get seasoned, experienced medical doctors of all years in practice, junior, middle, very senior, and their roster of patients comes across. So that absolutely happens. We also have situations where we've got new graduates who would come in, but I'd say it's fair to say it's the latter. From what I understand, just looking at the contracts and sort of the bios of
the former, or the former, you mean?
Sorry, the latter, meaning that they tend to be more seasoned with roster than straight out of school.
Okay.
As in terms of a mix, and I think it's strongly skewed to established and have roster of patients that will roster over to us.
The second question is a little generic. I'm not sure you can answer it, or you'd be allowed to answer it. Do we have a COVID testing deal in the works for the fall?
Just like new testing. Yeah, I mean, we already are. I can tell you that school testing is accelerating dramatically in the U.S. I know that the lab are testing 500 students this Sunday. And they're, as the CARES Act evolves in the US, the Biden administration has put together large funding for the states, each of the states, based on the population in the states, dedicated to testing for students of all sorts, young through college. So Texas gets the second largest allocation behind California. Texas's allocation is in excess of $20 billion US
Wow.
just for education testing. So
And my kids are in college here in California. That's why I'm here. And
yeah,
they have to get tested every week.
yep. So
All the
that's what's
students got to
coming.
get.
So
So,
that's
so you see a
exactly
lot
what's coming.
happening on the testing side.
Yeah, we really anticipate that we're going to see a ramp up again across sectors, education being one. We already see film and television noise accelerating again, and business testing. We had another one of our bank customers who was very strong earlier in the year, and they slowed down a little bit. They're back again. Right. And so I don't have a sense of the volume, like what it looks like. So I have to spend more time with the Texas team, but we're definitely seeing that. And so thankfully we've got the expansion completed now at Kai Medical, and we'll be doing a ribbon cutting ceremony in September on that one as well. But we need the space. Like, we desperately need the space with these volumes going back up.
If there's a small cap ribbon company out there, I'm going to be buying their stock tomorrow with all the ribbon cuttings you're doing in September. The third question from Kunzer, we've already answered. What are the synergies between clinics, Kai Labs, and Medisure? How can they all benefit from each other? I think you went through that pretty firm before, but thanks for that question. And they go on to say, great work, Steve and the team. Thank you for your transparency and your frequent news releases. Looking forward to seeing many more clinics opening. So thanks for that.
Thank you for that. Well, everybody can anticipate that. We're just in that rhythm.
Next up is Yosh, which I'm assuming is not Yoshi. Yosh without the I. But first question: are there any plans to uplist? We've talked about that. Are there new contracts in the pipeline? We just talked about that.
Yeah.
The third one we have not talked about: how close is Steve to finding his new CFO? And has he found a better team to handle future financials?
Okay, so a lot of activity going on search. So as you know, we've engaged Korn Ferry. Korn Ferry have started their work. Korn Ferry have done all the executive and board internal interviews. I wanted them to not just have my perspective on it, but have our leadership team's perspective on what they're looking for out of a CFO, and to help give Korn Ferry all the adequate tools for this search. So I'd say the whole process is underway very nicely. And that leads into a much more effective audit cycle in the future. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why we're investing in this to get it done, right? So that's our commitment to our shareholders. It's our commitment to ourselves internally to get better.
Along for the ride asks, and we've kind of dealt with this. Thanks, Steve and Empower staff, for building the strong foundation needed to move CBDT to a more credible exchange. My question is, and I acknowledge this isn't cast in stone, but do you envision that it'll take a consolidation of outstanding shares to get us there? I believe the large outstanding share count deters potential investors, at least at this point.
Yeah, I don't agree with that aspect. I don't think it deters. I think that we're still in a good and reasonable range in the shares outstanding. We don't know whether we need to roll back, want to roll back. Need to do it in conjunction with an uplisting because we need to hit a strike price and a share price threshold for NASDAQ. We did, through last year's AGM, give ourselves the ability technically to choose to do a rollback through board resolution because we added to our proxy in last year's, and that was all about future planning. So that
it's there if
it was necessary, because I've always had a vision of an uplist. Then we've got all the technical tools in place to be able to execute.
So the Empire Investor is next, but I think we've answered all these. Okay, is there plans for reverse split? Just talked about that. Uplisting, talked about that. By the way, I list the questions because I want to make sure we give everyone credit for asking them, but we've dealt with them. When are the first wave clinics expected to open? We know that. That's September. Go long, smallcapribbon.com. And Sun Valley Health, we've talked about that. So Empower Investor, thanks for that. Seblo, can you explain the benefit of the clinics? If I have insurance, will it be normally covered and reimbursed when I go for a visit, or is it private and won't be reimbursed?
No, it's standard Canadian, health center approach, right? When it comes to your primary care physician and services, we may test certain aspects of specialized services in some private pay combos. So, as an example, we've talked about teledermatology and our partnership that we announced with MedX Health. So, as these first locations come online, I think we've already earmarked Browns Line as the first location for MedX Health.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because it's got the real estate, right? So we definitely want to intend to get 3 locations up and running with the teledermatology service. We think it's an incredibly valuable health resource for patients. It's also accretive to the financial model and our profit model, more importantly. Where private pay and say co-pays come into place is a bit more with paramedical services. So if you think of your chiropractor or your podiatrist, chiropodist, or massage, in many cases patients pay for that out of pocket, or they pay for it out of pocket and get it reimbursed through their plans. But the typical primary care medical billing model in Canada absolutely is in place.
TMC, Seblo goes on to say, TMC ticker is available on NASDAQ. When are you going to apply for it? With a smiley face. And goes on to say, TMC is a nice name. Congrats for all the work. I know it's a team effort. By the way, TMC, the Medi Collective.
Yeah.
A question I was thinking about, and I don't think we've talked about this before, but as that rolls out successfully, and of course with all the caution where you're in execution mode, but I have every reason to believe that it's gonna be rolled out really nicely for a long time. As that name gets bigger and bigger, do you see Empower Clinics changing its name to the Medi Collective at some point? Or
yeah, I don't know. I mean, we certainly, I can sort of at least conceptualize something like that. I think we had a thought at some time that, we absolutely had to change the name of Empower Clinics as the corporate entity. We do and will change the ticker symbol at some point. But there's a flip side that says we've got so much of a following now under the corporate entity of Empower Clinics, Inc. And I see us running almost like a ABC and what Google does,
right?
Where lean corporate office with strong divisions and strong leadership within those divisions. So I think it's still. I'm not going to jump to a conclusion on that.
Oh no, no, it wasn't going to pin you down
model,
to an answer. More like just is it something you're thinking about?
I think it's. I mean, I've definitely conceptualized it. I just we're not ready to make a decision one way or another on that, but. There's some key things such as the current ticker symbol will go away. I just don't have, the resolution on exactly what that will be and when.
Dalen 06. There's been, this is an interesting question. There's been an increase in medical clinics throughout North America that are run by nurse practitioners, NPs. As NPs are able to assess, diagnose, treat, place referrals, and prescribe medications to patients autonomously without a doctor, have you and the team considered opening clinics with nurse practitioners?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think we're following it. There are certain limitations, and I think there are limitations in based on the province as well. I don't think that is kind of the standard across the country. So it's definitely, I think, geographically. There are considerations geographically. So, I think it's just more discussion with our medical team on what that, might look like. Is that, an efficient way or less expensive way to run a healthcare center. I think it's definitely worthy of kind of thorough investigation. And again, I think it's we need to learn more about it, and we need to pay attention to what's happening with each Ministry of Health across the country, based on guidelines. So I think it's a good topic, and I think we'll definitely sort of spend more time on it. But we don't have a firm position on it today.
Second question: Does Medisure? I like this question. Does Medisure have any plans to bid on contracts with any hospitals or ambulance services in Canada? Why? And this is great additional information. These types of services go through thousands of Lancets a day and hundreds of glucometers a year, which could boost revenue significantly.
So Medisure already works with ambulance services. It already works with care homes. It has a contract with the Canadian government for jails and correctional facilities. And so they're already doing that. I just want them to scale that up. They're not doing enough of it because they're actually very good at it. So when
that's great that they're already there and you just
charge them. So when you look at the sales and distribution model, there's really two tracks for Medisure right now existing. One is through pharmacies, and the other is on a direct kind of commercial basis. Ambulance, EMT, fire halls, large care home groups, and then Corrections Canada as well. So we're already doing that. I just want to see them do more of it.
Yeah, that's great to know that they're there, because those would be very difficult to break into, and I'm sure you could, but the fact that they're there, now you just got to supercharge them is great.
Yeah, they have the products for it. So when you get into the facility side that we're referring to, you actually use a multi-use glucometer, not a single-use glucometer. So when a consumer would say purchase at a pharmacy for their own use, they're purchasing a product set that is a single-use glucometer, and then of course using the Lancets. But if you're an EMT, you carry a multi-use glucometer, which is a different device, and you're able to, under Health Canada guidelines, use that glucometer for multiple patients. There's a special cleaning protocol that they have to go through. So the product set at Medisure is already built for those markets.
Last question: cardiology continues to be brought up in the announcements regarding services. What type of cardiology services will be offered?
Just more to come on that. We're very bullish on cardiology, again, as a specialized added service. We think that we can have almost have our clinic locations, again, where the real estate can accommodate, like a satellite cardiology office, almost like a hub and spoke model. And so more to come on that topic. We certainly are in very extended dialogue with some opportunities that are related to cardiology as a specialized service.
Thanks, Dalen. Great questions. Breeper's next. Stephen George, thank you for doing the Q&A. You've touched on this, but we may need a bit of a more holistic answer just to drive the point home. Steve's saying, can you please elaborate on the importance and value of Medisure? I'll skip some details, but they say all this seems like a distraction from clinics. So can you please explain how this fits the bigger picture that I don't see?
I mean, it's not a distraction from clinics. It's part of our business model. We have two main pillars here that we're working on. One is opening healthcare centers in conjunction with pharmacy networks in the markets that we serve. It reduces our cost to open. It reduces our cost to operate because we have subsidized rent. And it comes with access to many tens, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of consumers in a neighborhood where the pharmacy is located and our new clinic goes in. The other side, or other pillar, is developing new, important, direct-to-consumer medical testing products through Kai Care. And whether that started with our COVID test, direct-to-consumer COVID test, or it leads to the large pipeline that they're developing, which may include men's health, female health, and other types of products. Medisure really aligns with that. It is a medical device direct-to-consumer, testing company. Happens to be focused on diabetes, has a great brand that we like. It assimilates so nicely with the Medi Collective. It has all the trademarks on that brand, and I think it has huge runway. They only have 0.5% market share in Canada. They're not currently operating in the United States. We're in those markets, and we have developed a huge reputation with pharmacy networks already. The moment that we bring on the Pharma Choice, the PharmaSave, whatever, it opens up the dialogue on behalf of Medisure. So I think we can really flex and lean in to dramatically improving that business model and getting much bigger contributions out of Medisure. They're about 1.9 million in revenue annualized with 0.5 market share. If we could get them to 2% market share, this thing is 4 times as large than what we acquired.
Brian, great question. Thank you for that. Next one is from Oil Sands Strong. Some disappointment in Kai testing numbers. Back in January, you said the majority of the testing Kai was doing was standard RT-PCR. You said then you expected 2,000 tests a day in March. I don't think you said 2,000 tests every day.
No.
I think it was just that we would get to that capacity and see some of those days. And there was an expectation that Kai alone might be on a $10 million run rate. But judging by the financials, they don't think that we're anywhere close to that. What's the plan forward to be more accurate when providing predictions or projections?
Yeah, we certainly are hearing everybody on that topic. At the time when we put out those announcements, those were the facts at the time. That's exactly what was happening. I believe that $10 million run rate announcement was sometime around February, and we had frankly done. We crossed $1 million that month in revenue. Yeah, and so. At
the time, you thought it was conservative because that'd be $12 million for the year
exactly.
Without any growth.
That's right, and we kind of felt at the time we were kind of hedging it, and so we don't control what happens with the federal government of the United States or the states that we operate in, and certainly those forces have impacted the testing volumes at different times. Equally, with the pervasive nature of the Delta variant, we're kind of all just anticipating that our testing volumes kind of go back up again. And
because the vaccinations, I think, drove down testing. People were flooding in to get vaccinated. They're feeling a lot better. Testing was definitely dropping off, but it seems like you're going back up.
We're going back up because we're seeing there's 94 million non-vaccinated Americans right now. I mean, that's a very big number, and the lion's share of COVID cases are with non-vaccinated folks.
And it's going to stay there, right? Because
it is.
That number hasn't changed. It's like 51% have been double vaccinated, and it sounds like it hasn't budged much in the last couple of months.
It really flattened out in the U.S. markets from that standpoint. And the other sad thing that we're seeing is, in fact, double vaccinated Americans testing positive for the Delta variant. And so we fully anticipate that demand on testing is going to go up. It's not going to stay flat or down. And I think Dr. Fauci in the U.S. is talking deep into 2022 and beyond. I don't think Canada is much different. I think our collective vaccination rates are trending a little bit higher in people 12 years of age and up, but there's still a decent amount of the population across the country that are not vaccinated. And then travel testing, like forget about it. That's just going to stay. Like it's just not going away. So I think our demand for having COVID tests available direct to consumer on the shelves of pharmacies in the markets that we serve is a great application of that product set.
Yeah, so you may get there yet. The good news was volume dropped off for a good reason for society. Vaccinations happened, people are feeling a lot
Yeah.
better, and now we're seeing, unfortunately, a bit of a resurgence. So, but at the time, I remember that we were thinking that was actually a conservative number because you
It was
surpassed $1
because
million that month.
Those revenue numbers were correct. I mean, that's
Yep.
that's what we crossed
They were
through. We decided to put something out about it. So I think I hear people loud and clear. Again, we're in a constant state of continuous improvement, and those are probably some areas that we want to tighten up on and improve. This balance of transparency and communication, and getting everything as close to right as possible, is kind of sometimes can be a bit of a tricky formula. But again, I'm listening and paying attention, and we're working on improvements.
Empower Me, we've already answered your question about Sun Valley Health. Is there a date or rough idea on the ticker to be changed?
No, again, there's a couple of decisions that have to be contemplated, right? It's are we keeping the corporate entity? Are we or if we're going to change it, when do we change it? Do you wait to do something like that in conjunction with an uplisting, right? So there's still some decisions that just have to be kind of flushed out that we haven't done yet as a board and as a leadership team. But these are some aspects, like the ticker symbol, are one that we know needs to change.
Colin, Steve, I live in Alberta. There's a huge industry surrounding drug and alcohol testing with anything to do with the oil and gas industry. This can be very lucrative. A lot of this is sent to Thunder Bay. My first question, are you looking to set up a lab in Western Canada or Canada? You've answered that. Yeah. But maybe, is there any, do you think about doing anything for drug and alcohol testing? Maybe that's a more question there.
I mean, I don't think as a priority. However, let's say, for instance, we're able to land on a lab that we can acquire, and then the configuration of its testing equipment, that inventory of testing assets would be the likely dictator of if you're involved in that type of testing, right? So you have all of this equipment. There's a lot of very specialized equipment that cover different test protocols, whether it's molecular or hormone or toxicology, right? So it really just depends on what the specialized equipment configuration would be.
Second question, have you guys looked into getting on board with any benefits packages for companies or unions?
So what you're talking about there is occupational health and safety focus. So the answer is yes, but we need to have some more infrastructure open and live, and right, medical doctors before we can approach the Sun Lifes of the world and others. But we absolutely see an acceleration in opportunities for playing a role in occupational health and safety, and I think you're going to see a lot more from us in the future on that, because it's too strong a market, it's too logical, but we're just not quite ready for it yet, but soon.
Right, and Colin's off with thanks for your time. Have a good one. Keep up the good hard work. Last but not least is Maina. It's not a question, but I'm going to give them credit for talking about something you talked about earlier that we heard for the first time: dividends. Good day. Is Empower more likely to offer dividends or follow on equity growth model in the future? I understand that the company has a long way to go prior to this stage, though, but very, very, great outlook.
It is a great outlook, and frankly, I find it, quite logical, right? If you think of the type of recurring revenue streams in healthcare that fundamentally, should be a stable industry in the future. It's a massive industry. Just go look at, our current, election candidates and watch each of them talk about how important healthcare is for their platform in Canada. So, I kind of just like the idea of the fact that we're building a business model that has divisions that could almost start feeling like annuities, where you just know there's predictable revenue stream and free cash flow that are coming from it, barring unforeseen circumstances. And then, so those are the components, if you look historically to companies that switch from growth mode to value mode that can start to offer dividends. I just happen to have, worked for organizations like that and watched it.
Just happened to
and watch it play out, and scripted perfectly. So, if does that playbook show up for us in the future? I don't know at this stage, but
if I had to guess, I could see that 3 to 5 years out.
You're not
closer to 5 when you're just a behemoth. Knock on wood. Hopefully, hundreds of clinics out in North America and stable cash flow and all that. Yeah, and then and that's what happened. But I can see that happening. I'm not
absolutely
predicting it, by the way, for everyone. This isn't financial advice. I'm not making, but I could see that happening now, given what you're building.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly, like I say, I've been part of organizations like that, watched it being executed, saw the benefits to shareholders in the market. So, we're certainly technically aware of, all of those tools. Hey, listen, if we find ourselves in that position in the future where we're even contemplating it, I think all of us as shareholders would be pretty happy.
I think good things will good things will have happened for us to get there. But
exactly,
and I don't think that's pie in the sky. This isn't, can we land a rocket ship on Mars? I think I can see that in 4 to 5 years, God willing. Steve, that's a wrap. That's everything.
Thank you.
Normally I'd say anything you want to end off with, but I think you pretty much said everything. But I will, is there anything you want to end off with that you haven't already touched upon, or is it more just looking forward to ribbon cutting and seeing everybody in September?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, the last 4 months of this year. I hope that people are understanding the tangibility of what we've been building. We see sometimes commentary is that, are there actually even any clinics? Is this going on? Well, it's comical to me because I'm signing leases and I'm paying for architects and building permits and contractors and building the MediCollective brand. So it's very tangible for us. So I think that the launch of the brand, these first openings, will help confidence, I think, because the reality and tangibility of a location that we've got medical doctors there, we've got rostered patients that we're seeing every day, and those contributions in medical billing and revenues, are starting to flow through our P&Ls each quarter. And then it's just building blocks. And so I'd say, please remain confident. I think we've got a good handle on what we're doing. I think we've got some just beautiful alignments taking place with the pharmacy, ecosystem throughout North America. And I think we're onto something here. So just watch for us to continue to execute.
Yep. And for our Ontario investors, especially those in the GTA, keep your calendars kind of open for the second, third, fourth week of September, somewhere in there. But I think we're gonna have a real nice ribbon cutting ceremony in Etobicoke. It'd be great to have everyone there. We'll be doing video interviews with with shareholders, with people, with you, having fun. It's gonna be fun. Might be some food there. Maybe we're not sure yet, but might be some food there. But more importantly, everyone's gonna get to see one of the first clinics and how great it is. It's real, tangible, touch and feel. And I think that's going to be a real big kickoff for a long
and
time.
seeing what our national brand looks like and what it stands for, and seeing the color palettes and the signage and the brochures and the marketing material. Like it's really good stuff. I'm so proud of our team and the leadership and our brand organization. They've really it's something special. I got to tell you.
All right. Well, Steve, we were hoping that we would be doing this from California together, but schedule conflicts erase that. But in a month or so, give or take, we'll be doing it live together in Ontario. So
You
can't
bet.
wait to see you. And thanks so much for doing this. I know the shareholders appreciate it. An hour and 25 minutes of your time is not a small thing, but that's how important
It's
communication
important.
is to you.
Yeah, it's important to do this. I know how much value it brings to our followers. So thank you, George. And thank you for your time.
Have a great day, Steve. So, talk to you soon.
Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and then leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel so you don't ever miss another great Agoracom small cap video.